This is the real Tom Rose, and we're dealing with a tricky inequality problem here. First of all, they tell you an equation which relates x and y right here, and then they tell you an inequality. And they say which of the following is true. If you look at the answer choices, you'll notice that the answer choices all concern an inequality with y. The inequality that they've given you, however, deals with x. So what we need to do is take the information from the equation that we're given and plug it in, use it to do some kind of substitution or combination to get rid of the x and substitute in a y. One way you can do this is to take the equation, solve it for x, which will yield an expression of only y. Then you can substitute that in for this x, and then we'll have an inequality with y. So let's do that. First thing I'm going to do is cross multiply here. So you'll end up with 1 over y equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and what you get is x equals 1 over 2y. So now let's take, this should say equal. Let's take this 1 over 2y, let's plug that in for this x right here, and we'll generate our inequality with y, and we'll look for an answer. So we'll get 1 is less than 1 over 2y, which is less than 5. So that's what we get when we plug in. And if you compare that to the answer choices, you'll notice we don't have a match, which is unfortunate. It means we have to do extra work. And when you set out to do this work, one of the things that should jump out at you is the next step here appears to be multiplying by this variable 2y. Now, when you multiply by a variable in an inequality, that is a dangerous thing. And it's dangerous because you may recall when you're dealing with an inequality, you cannot, or if you multiply by or divide by a negative number, you need to flip the sign. So when you're dealing with variables, you don't know whether they're positive or negative, so it's hard to just willy-nilly multiply by them. We do not have a choice, however. So we can solve this by making some assumptions. So one assumption you can start out making is that 2y is positive. Right, so let me write that out algebraically. If we say 2y is greater than 0, you can solve that to say we're making the assumption that y is greater than 0. Right, so that's one assumption, this whole thing. If we make that assumption, we can now multiply by 2y and comfortably solve this. Now, how do we know that's a good assumption? Well, you wouldn't ordinarily, except if you go to the answer choices, you'll notice that every range that y is in is all positive. So we're looking for an answer where y is positive. So this does not seem like that crazy of an assumption to make. So let's make it. Now when you multiply by 2y, what you end up with is 2y is less than 1, which is less than 10y. We still want to solve this for y itself. So I'm actually going to break it into two inequalities, that one and this one. So if we have 2y is less than 1, that becomes y is less than 1/2. And if we have 1 is less than 10y, what that becomes is 1/10 is less than y. Now, if we, in the answer choices, you'll see that they're put in this, they're recombined. So we want to put y together. So you can do that by just going in order. So it looks like the smallest thing we have is 1/10. So if I put 1/10 on the left, which is smaller than y, and y is smaller than 1/2, that is an answer choice. Well, sort of. I have to change it into a decimal. So 0.1 is less than y, which is less than 0.5. Is that an answer choice? Yes, that's the first answer choice.